Welcome everyone to the next part of this tutorial exploring using assets in Unreal Engine, and also we're going to be delving into a bit of game mechanics as well. So without further ado, let's get going. So just to recap from the last video, we're aiming to basically create an asset. So it's quite simple in one sense. We're just going to create a crate. So something like this. Trying to jump up on there. There we go. And so a kind of static mesh. And then we're aiming to basically duplicate that, but also we're going to create a trigger box that we're going to put around these crates, and also put a sound effect on it. Now I'm just going to again just try and make this audible for you so you can actually hear it happening. So it'll just mean me unplugging the mic. So just to make this audible for you, I'm going to just turn up the volume a little bit there. Now it might come through as slightly delayed. Let's just see how we get on, but it might be delayed as I smash through. So anyway, so we've got the character here. That's all good. And then as we go and walk through, because we've got the collision box and the game dynamic, game design setup, the game mechanics, it should do this. So away we go. So as you'll see, as I open up the blueprints for it, you can see there. So basically, when you hear the audio, there's a few things going on. So we've got essentially a few things which I'm going to go through. We're going to do together. Basically, we start off by creating a trigger box, which you'll do in the game engine, and also it'll be represented here. And then also we have the box collapse, which is connected to the audio, and then that basically gets played. But then within the trigger box, the actor, which is in case the target gets destroyed, we need a delay. So basically, how long does the sound continue for? So put it at about 6 seconds. You can increase that. And then of course we need it to finish. So then we have the box collapse as represented there, going through to again the audio, which is going to fade out. So that's that there. So that's the duration of the audio, and that's the fade out of the audio. And then basically that's it, and then it ends. So that's kind of what you hear when we've got the box collapsing. So without further ado, let's get going. I'm going to minimize this now because we need to have a look at creating the box. So I'm going to put the texture available for you, but basically we'll start off by creating the crate. So that's going to be the first part of this video, so fairly reasonable size. Now what we're going to aim to do is, it's going to be really basic. Going to first of all unpack this UV just using automatic, and then we're going to sew them together. So I'm going to go to UV, automatic, and then I'm going to open up the UV editor. You can see that's just randomly join them together, but we need to stitch them together because we need the texture to kind of follow through all the way round, so it needs to be linear. So I'm going to right click and go to edge. I need to find these edges on our box, so about there. So I'm going to click on that. And you can see there that these two are sort of selected. I'm going to press shift, right click, move and sew edges. That's that. Go to this edge again. That's going to join these two up. Right click, move and sew edges, so you can see it's joining them all up. And then we need to kind of, I think we've got a bit of a doubling up here, but we can come to that in a minute. We've got box there. I think we're going to join those two up, moving so the edges, and on that edge there, is that right? So edges, there we go, and then lastly, I'm going to click on that there, moving so edges. Yeah, so you end up with a kind of cross shape. Next, we go to UV shell, highlight the entire thing, shift and right click, and then layout UV. So basically, we'll just put it squarely in the 0 to 1 space. That's all good. And next, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to, because we're going to be putting this texture, we need the texture in here to kind of trace around it. So the best thing to do here is we're going to export this. So it needs to be highlighted. You need to go to Image and UV Snapshot. And then we need to, I'm just going to rename this, say Box 5, so put it on the desktop. With it all highlighted, apply and close. So that's now exported that, which is all good. Also make sure, sorry, one thing I needed to mention in UV Snapshot, make sure it's set to JPEG. Sometimes the default will be Maya IFF. So just make sure it's set to say JPEG. And apply and close. So I'm going to close it, I've already done it. Click on that. And then I'm going to open up Photoshop. So I'm just going to put the video on pause there a second and wait to open up Photoshop, and I'll join you in the next part. Okay, so Photoshop's loaded up. As you can see here, I've actually opened up this file beforehand with the texture, but first of all, I'm just going to go to the exported file, the UV snapshot, which I think is there. There we go, box 5. I'm going to open that up. There we go. So this is what you should be seeing when you open the file. Okay, next is I'm going to open up the texture. So make sure it's kind of handy there. I'm going to use the Multicut Tool, Control and C, and then go through to the UV snapshot and Control and V. Now remember, it's kind of going, it's linear, yes, I'm going to try and keep them all going the same way, right? So basically, I'm just going to place it, use the up and down arrows as well, just to kind of get it nice and positioned, and then I'm going to hold down Alt and just copy it. Now hopefully on your Photoshop you should have it sorted so it snaps into place. Same thing again with this. Just use the up and down arrows to position it, and then the same again. Like so. For the top, I'm just going to Control and T and rotate that around. Like so. Then just Control and T, just zoom in a little bit, just make sure that that's absolutely flush. Well, I say absolutely flush, it's not entirely important that you get it absolutely flush, but as long as it's kind of near us. Okay, and then got that sorted there. So that's pretty much good to go. The last thing we need to do is just need to go through to where we've got the original UV snapshot. We don't need that anymore, and then I'm going to go to File, Save As, and then we're going to save this as a target file. Yeah, we'll call this Box 6. You can call it whatever you like. Desktop, and I'll see it on there. And it needs to be 32 bits. Click OK. Right, I'm just going to minimize that a second. Now, going back through to here, I'm just going to go to right click and object mode. So that's selected. Let's just get rid of that. And then I'm just going to go to right click again and material attributes. It takes us through to the actual material. And then we're going to attach our file. So I'm going to go onto the checker symbol there, File, then go back to the folder, and let's go and find our texture, which is there. Now this is what you should be seeing. Yeah, you should be seeing your file in its entirety, your texture. Click open. If you don't see it at first, if it's blank, hit 6. And hey presto, you should have your box. So if you've managed to do that, well done. So the next bit we're going to be coming on to is basically using the Multicut tool to create some sort of divisions, and also we're going to need to sync this area and also raise this area. Now we have to do this in a particular way. Now you will notice when we do this we will get a little bit of stretching, but for considering this is going to be really a kind of prop that you're not going to see in detail, so you know, if this were like, you know, if this were in Unreal Engine, you know, in terms of like, you know, yeah, you might see it kind of like up to that kind of distance, but that's about it. Yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about the detail of that. It's mainly just about, this is just really just a little kind of finish on it. Anyway, I'm going to go to the Multicut tool and just zoom in a little bit. In fact, let me just maximize that there. Let's just get a bit more space. And hold down Control, and we're just going to position these now. Like so. And then same at the top, same at the bottom. Then I'm just going to rotate around, do the same at the side. So, like so. Okay, that's all looking all right. Okay, so before we go any further, just a couple of things I need to go into. So you can see here when we've put the edges in here using the Multicut tool, some of it is not entirely on mark, and that's fine. That's fine but we will need to adjust those just so it doesn't look too odd. And also, when we've got this kind of bracket going down sort of diagonally here, we are going to use the Multicut tool to do that as well, and we will need to adjust that. However, once we do that and then we try to move the vertexes, what it will do is it'll begin to warp the UVs and in turn the image, and we don't want that. So how do we get around it? What you'll need to do is you'll need to go through to Windows, General Editors, and Tool Settings. Now I'm just going to go into Vertex Mode so it shows up. I'm going to select one of those, hit W just so it shows up. So Windows, General Editors, Tool Settings, and in the Tool Settings just below Step Snap we've got Preserve Children. What you need is, you might find that that's unchecked, Preserve UVs. You'll need to check that. Yeah. If you don't have that checked, it'll warp. So what that means is then when we go through to something like this and we move it, although you see a little bit of movement, it won't warp it. So just to show you as an example, if I just go back now, General Editors and Tool Settings, and I turn that off, okay, I'll just move that to one side, and then I try to move it, see what it does? It's basically it just distorts it. It's unusable. Yeah. So just undo that. So yes, make sure that it's turned on, and in which case it all stays on track. So yeah, that's just something else to kind of bear in mind. Now, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect. We are talking about a wooden crate, so it's not like it's, you know, it's probably going to be made out of something like pallet wood, which is going to be uneven anyway. So it's not something to necessarily get too concerned about. So yeah, so keeping in the object mode, I'm going to go back to the Multicut tool, and what we're going to do is we're going to go around the box now, and we're going to place our vertexes in by hitting enter. So we're going to go click, click, hit enter. Basically we're going to work our way around the box. enter, and just take a few moments just to do that. Okay, so now we've got most of that covered. Then we basically just take the opportunity to do a bit of tweaking. So now that we've got the preserve UVs set up, I'm going to go into Vertex Mode, sorry, and I can then go around, select them, and this is where we can start doing a bit of tweaking. Yeah. Okay, so that should all be looking pretty good, and of course take your time, put the video on pause if you need to. We're going to be going through to the next stage, which is essentially we're going to be extruding the box, the inner of the box. We're going to be creating a recess, and then we're going to be bringing these braces out. And then we're just going to have a look at stretching. Now, it's not vitally important, so we'll come to that shortly, but it's not vitally important. But if you want to try and just iron out a few of these things so you don't get any stretching with the textures, we can have a look at that as well. So that will be the next part of this video. Okay, so the next part of the video is where we're going to be creating the extrusion. So you'll need to select all the surfaces in the middle. So hold down Shift, I'm going to go around and click all of these panels here, as you can see. Holding down Shift, clicking, and then at the bottom, start there. So make sure you haven't clicked on any of the other edges, because you'll end up extruding those. It's very easy to do, and just make sure you don't do that. So that's all looking okay. Then we go Control and E, and then we use the local translate to basically bring these edges in, or faces should I say. So around about, say, goodness, about there, what looks to be about sort of 2 inches, something like that. And before you click off, just make sure it's all looking all right and you haven't selected any other faces as well. You can see some stretching there, as I mentioned earlier, but we will come back into that. It's not the end of the world. If you want to leave it as is, that's fine. You know, as an asset going into a game engine, that's perfectly fine, but we will have a look at rectifying that. And that looks all right. So I'm going to click off, and then I'm going to select the middle pieces, and again Shift, 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 and just basically go around and select the middle pieces. Yeah, and then basically we do the same thing again. Right, Control and E, and then local translate, and then we're going to bring these out. Now, not all the way back to the, back to the edge, but just somewhere in between, just so it looks like it's it's nestled in between the frame and the back there. So you kind of got this thing going on. Okay, that's all looking good. Click off. Okay, so we're almost there. Okay, folks, so if you've managed to do all the extrusions, that's great. That's pretty much it, really. There is a little bit of stretching that kind of happens on the inside edges, and by all means, you could have a look at that. It may be assigning new material to it and just making it look a little bit more even. But to be honest, given that this is going to be an asset that's going to be sort of sat in a game engine, where you're not necessarily going to be giving it lots of attention, as it were, then I really wouldn't be too concerned about it at this stage. Anyway, we are ready for the next stage, which is then to basically import or export this and import it into Unreal Engine. So what we'll need to do is need to go to File, Export Selection, and make sure you've got your destination set up. Create another folder, I guess. I'm going to call this Unreal Project, so we know where we are. Open that, and we'll save this as an FBX. I'll call it the crate, the_crate, yeah. And that's it. Export. So we are ready for the next stage, folks, which is importing into Unreal. So see you in the next part. Okay, folks, so we are now back in Unreal Engine. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to import our file into the content browser. So what we can do, just so it doesn't get confused with all the rest of the other stuff, is I'm going to right click and create a new folder, and I'll call it the crate. Okay, I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to go to import in the content browser and go and find our file, desktop, and scroll down until we see file is. I've just passed it. Unreal Project, of course. I was looking for a different file. There we go. Open, and then we can find our crate. Click open. Now, just something to bear in mind. I'll import this now. I'm just going to go import all. I just wanted to add a little caveat to this. We'll just let it do its thing. And that's fine. Just click off that. There we go. So we've got our crate there, and we should be able to just sort of drag that in there. Before I do that, though, I just wanted to go back into Maya, because some of you may have problems importing. And what I mean by that is when you go to export selection, click on the square on the side. We want to go to edit preset and just make sure, if I just scroll down to, I think it's embed media. Embed media, where are we? Not embed media, I beg your pardon. Sorry, FBX file format, I think it is. Make sure it's on 2018. Now, it may be fine, but if you have it set to 2019, and depending on what version you are on in Unreal Engine, it may not import it. That's all I'm saying. So just to be on the safe side, import it on an earlier version. You may be fine, but it might be that you're trying to import stuff and it doesn't work. So I just thought I'd throw that one in there just in case you're having any issues. Anyway, back to Unreal Engine. So we've got our crate. Now by rights, should be able to just drag that in there. Obviously it needs a bit of scaling up. Like so. And again, if you want to play around with the snapping on the grid, we can change that up to say 10. Sorry, 10. That's it, yeah. And maybe take that a little bit higher. Just so we're not sinking through the floor. I'm just going to have a quick look at that now in Unreal and just see what it looks like. I'm going to hit F11 and let's go over to our crate and just see. Yeah, not looking too bad there. Not looking too bad at all. Yeah, you can see there. That's great. Now, we do have a texture on there, but we don't have any normals. Now, if I just hit F11, what I like to do is I just like to show you, there's a program that I use, which I'm going to go into shortly. I'm just going to put the video on pause and take you to it, to create the normal surface. Of course, you can create normals in Photoshop, but I just want to take you through this because also it has ambient occlusion, which you can kind of create as well. So I'm just going to put the video on pause. I'm just going to take you through to the site. Okay folks, so in this bit we're going to be concentrating on creating our sound cue through our trigger box and then putting that in front of a pile of boxes, crates, and then yeah, and then I'm going to start again because that didn't go very well. Okay folks, so in this part of the tutorial, after having dragged in our new crate, which you can see there, I'll just press F just to zoom in and have a look. That's all looking fine and dandy. So zoom out a little bit. So next what we're going to do is we're going to stack them. So I've taken the liberty of just creating a little kind of platform for the crates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this up over there. I'm just going to hit F and just zoom out a little bit. Alright, so I might just expand it size wise a little bit. And let's just look at it in comparison. I think it's roughly the same size. It might be a little bit small actually. It's just doesn't really matter. Something like that will be fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold down Alt. Oh, sorry. Before doing that, I'm going to apply some physics. So we'll go physics, simulate physics, mass. We'll take it down to about say 50. Just have a quick look and see how that works. We want to be able to knock all of these over, so oops. Yep, that's perfect. Okay, so what we'll do now is click on it, hold down Alt, and I'm just going to, ideally I want these to snap. Forget which one it is. I think it's that one. It's one of these. That's better, yeah. Although I'm not sure if that's actually snapping or if that is merging into the other box. Just take the speed of this camera down a little bit quick as well. That's better. Right. Yeah, it's going a little bit over. I'll just take some of these down. These numbers down. That looks better. Still a little bit too much. Take it down to 5. Let's try that. Now I might just keep them apart just a little bit, because what can happen is, because they've got physics, when you put them all together they can become unstable. So I'm just going to leave that as is. I'm going to hold Shift to select the other one, and then Alt to duplicate. There we are, so something like that. Okay. So I just want to kind of create a row of these. I might just do another 2. There we go. So something like that. And then what we'll do is we will. So we've got what have we got? 3. We've got 6. So we'll have 4. We'll duplicate those. Hold down Alt. Something like that. Let's have a look. Just take that down a little more, actually. Okay, something like that, and then we'll take it to 3. Duplicate that. And then to 2. Right, now, as I mentioned before, there can be some kickback, so I'm just going to go to play. Oh, it seems to be behaving itself. There's a little, I noticed a little bit on the end, but we can live with that. That's fine. So if I now just go up to that, jump, run into it, that should all just knock over fine. That's great. That's what I'm after. I'll hit escape. So that's all good. So we're ready now to go to the next stage. So I'm going to go through to right. So I'm going to go through to now to the content, start content, and audio. So you can't hear this at the moment, but if you click on, let's just make a bit of space there. If you click on any of these, I can hear it in my headset. It's basically like a box collapse, and you've got some other ones on there. And of course, these are just I think they're MP3s. Unless I'm corrected, it might just. Let's just see. Or is it a WAV? It might be a WAV. Something like that. But yeah, if you go into something like Free Sounds, this website where you can kind of get free sounds, sound effects, and music as well. You can import them, of course. But for now, I'm just going to grab hold of this. I'm going to put this now in the environment like so, because I want it to happen. Of course, you're not going to see this, but I just want it to kind of happen in that space. So we've got that sorted there. So we've got the boxes stacked, which is good. And we're ready to go on to the next stage, which is, and also, yeah, sorry, I forgot to say, also in the World Outliner, you'll be able to see that they're now, again, if you've got multiple sounds going on, you'll need to kind of rename them. So that's our sound there. I know what that is. So when this is basically when it comes to doing the blueprints, you've got to be really careful so you don't select the wrong thing, because I've already got another sound in there. Oh, one thing as well, just to remember, we don't want it to be automatic. So with that selected, I want to go down on the right here, and somewhere there will be a box to untick. Yeah, auto activate. So we want to uncheck that. We don't want it just to kind of start every single time, because otherwise, once I've done all the blueprints, it will create. It'll just sort of start off on its own. Right. So we've got that sorted. Next, I'm going to go back to over here to volumes, and I want to put a trigger box. So I'm going to go all the way over to here and trigger volume. Sorry, my mistake. It's all classes. And somewhere there will be a trigger box. Or just type it in. That's one way of doing it. There we go, box trigger. Yeah, keep it simple, Jason. Right, and then I'm going to stretch that out. So basically, what the trigger box does is this creates like a, think of it being a bit like a sort of a force field. And what it does is when your player walks into it, it will trigger the sound. Yeah. Okay. Right, and obviously we want it to be fairly close, so we don't want the sound to kind of start before. I'll just hit F. Now it doesn't need to encapsulate the entire thing, but the player's just going to kind of hit the bottom. But yeah, something like that. Something like that, just so it's kind of just on the cusp. So when you go into it, by that point you're already hitting it. So that's all pretty good. So that's all set up. We've got the physics set up, we've got the trigger box set up, and we've got the sound. Okay, folks. So we'll just have a recap of to see where we are. So we've created or imported our box. We've applied physics to it. We've multiplied it. We've put it into a stack. We've done a check to see that it's all collapsing okay. We've dragged in a crate sound for the collapse, and also we've got a trigger box, which you can see here in this kind of yellow, orange yellow box. So we've put that around, and we've got it sort of pretty much in alignment with the box. So we're ready for the next stage, which is the blueprints. So we're going to go to the top here and open level blueprint, and you can see there we've got the existing blueprint, which essentially we're going to be recreating this from the other one. So the first thing we need to do is the on actor begin overlap. Before we do that though, we need to first of all select the trigger box. It's trigger box 2, and then what we do is we right click and we go to add event trigger box collision, and it's basically add on actor begin overlap. We click on that. So that's the first step. Next we need the actual sound effect, which is box collapse 2. So I'm going to click and hold and drag that into the scene like so. That's great. And then the next thing we'll need is this bit here and this bit, yeah. So it's the play and the target, yeah. And this is, we leave the time as is, but so target is audio component. So what we do is we drag from that, and then we type in word play. Yeah, play is audio component. So I'm going to click on that, Yep, so that corresponds with that. It's looking good. Just put that down below there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag from the on actor begin overlap. So from the trigger box is going to command the play to the target, which is the sound. So then the next bit is we want this to destroy. What we do is so what we do next is we drag out from that and we type in destroy actor. So we've got that there. And then we go through to the trigger box 2. We drag that in like so. And that will then plug into the target there like so. So we need to now put in a delay. So I'm going to drag out from that and type in delay, which is there. Now when it comes to the duration, we'll put in something like, say about 8 seconds. Yeah, that's probably about enough for it to collapse. And next we need to go back to our sound effect, box collapse. And then with that selected, drag that in. Got that there. And then from that we're going to drag out, type in fade. So we want this to fade out. I'm sure if that's the right one actually. Yeah, that's right. We've got that. And with this audio component, the fade out, probably want to set that at around about, say, about 2 seconds. And then we'll connect that up to the fade out. Try that again. There we go. Right. Okay. And then we go through to, so making sure all that's pretty much conclusive. It looks pretty much like the above. I'm going to go to compile and save. Right. And then I'm going to take that out there. Just going to go through to play. Let's have a look. Pop up. Yeah, that's working beautifully. Okay folks, so if you've managed to do that and it's all worked out all right, then well done. You've just completed your first bit of game mechanics. Yeah, so it's and there's lots more that we're going to be doing as well in terms of animations, things like that, but I thought we'd start off on doing a relatively simple one. It can get a lot more complex, but that's hopefully given you a taster of working in the game engine itself and how things, how sound effects or indeed, visual effects, animations and things like that occur within games. So that's pretty much it really. If you've got any questions, of course, let me know. Hopefully that's been informative. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in the next video. Okay, bye for now.